So we're here with our wonderful Ace, resident artist, and also player of Jury or Juridan. Does Juridan have a last name?
The character, their persona of Jury does not.
Yeah, I thought it was just like Juridan. Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny because when I announced Juridan, I was like, okay, my name's Juridan. And like none of the other characters, on all the promo material, you just put Juridan and like no one's ever questioned it.
Yeah.
Like in character, no one's ever been like, what's your last name or anything?
Yeah, no. It's like, no. I guess maybe they assumed like because of a bard that's just like a stage name or whatever.
Yeah.
But
or because I'm like
Cher
or something, but they didn't even try. I'm like, come on, guys.
Yeah, it's like Madonna, Cher.
Jury falls into that category.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so I've got 8 questions, and then a quick lightning round of just random bullshit questions.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and then all right. So for the first question, so who is your character? Just kind of like basic information, background, not background information, but like race, class, age, physical characteristics, any of that kind of stuff.
Sure. So Jury/Juridan is our half-orc bard. I really want to make a half-orc bard. And funny, I didn't know that much about the physical makeup of the party, but did not realize that no one has strength. And I had this stupid idea to make like a half-orc bard, because half-orcs are always these like barbarians or muscle characters. And I was like, I want to make like a tiny half-orc who is just really pretty and like doesn't do any of that. So they're very like lithe, and they have the green skin and like the purple hair and purple eyes, and they're great.
And we've got artwork up from the Ace drew. This is the classic Juridan, and then the new Juridan, which is post all of this shit
trauma.
Slightly darker hair on the post trauma one, which is interesting, but a new get up.
I added freckles too, because I was like, freckles always make everything better.
Yeah, there's a question I've always wondered about Juridan, like, because they always have their disguised self hat on them. Like, how much is the real Juridan, and how much is not? Yeah, that's. I mean, that'll be a surprise for me one day. But like, I've always wondered that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So, second question. So Juridan's backstory has kind of exploded in the last couple sessions.
To their dismay.
But there's still some elements, I'm sure, that are going to be kept secret. But what are some formative events from their past?
So I think that the biggest part of their history as a character is when they join Vox Populi. They obviously have some kind of. It was revealed in the last session that they were a noble. Mm-hmm. Oh god, I burped, sorry.
House Windsor, yeah.
Yes, they're of House Windsor. They're a noble. It hasn't 100% been confirmed, like why they did that or anything. But everyone knows at some point they met Iris, the leader of Vox Populi, and seem very passionate about Iris specifically as a person and the movement. And their main goal is to just help people who need help, and that's like their driving force, especially if they've been like oppressed in any kind of way. So
yeah, do you watch The Expanse?
I haven't watched that. Everyone tells me it's really good.
It's so good. There's your backstory always reminds me of, there's a character in the first season named Julie Mao, and she's like the daughter of the richest man in the solar system, basically, but she abandons him to go join this revolutionary organization.
It's my baby did that.
Hopefully you're not a tragic ending like for Julie.
God. Yeah, I hope not. Yeah. I think my friendship with Yorin will probably end pretty tragically when he finds that out. But,
I don't.
I've been telling Josh that I've been having dreams about it, like how that conversation is gonna go. It's gonna be so bad, and sometimes it goes like okay, and sometimes it's horrible. And I was like, oh, cool, we get the full spectrum here.
Yeah, I know
what this is gonna be like.
I'm trying to think like, how's Yorian gonna even handle this?
Well, I feel like that's a very in-character thing to do. Like I'll like kind of plan out conversations, and then we get to them, and I'm like, well, just throw those notes out. We're doing something else.
Yep, 100%.
Like last session didn't go anything like I had planned, so it was really funny. It was interesting. Jury just like reacted differently in the moment than I thought they would. So that's fun as a player when your character does that.
Yeah, it always is. All right. So thinking about Juridan, what are their driving motivations in life?
So, like I said, to help other people is kind of their biggest thing. Using Vox Populi to do that. I don't think Jury has like talked about with the group like how they feel about music either, which I think they have a very like interesting relationship to music, which we haven't really gotten into yet. And anytime they've played music, it's either been like to revolutionize people, or it was like one time they were sad and drunk and did like a sad song at the bar, and like, but they really haven't done anything like that since. And they heard him playing music in his room once when he was upset. But that's really like we haven't gotten into that. I think there's some cool character building I've been doing with that too.
That'll be fun. I wonder if like with the lack of downtime since Juridan has joined.
Oh my god, it's been like all gas for my poor boy.
Yeah, but I think once Anniversary hits, there's definitely gonna be a lot of downtime there, but also I'm sure still chaos.
It'll be different chaos though. Well, I mean, we'll have some like time on the airship to like talk too, which I think would be cool.
Yep.
Like just chat.
Yeah. All right. So with that in mind, so what are the things that hold Juridan back, or what are their greatest fears?
Well, I think it's been pretty clear they have like intimacy issues with other people. I think you could kind of tell like their main like job for Vox Populi is like information gathering, and so Jury has this like two of Jury's biggest problems is if someone has a secret, they like have to know what it is. And it like really, really bothers them if like people try to keep secrets for them or don't tell them things, like, which is going to be a great conversation with Mar, isn't it? But they, so that's like really hard for them to deal with. And the other problem is like with the people they care about, not using that information in like a malicious way. Right. Which I think also happened with Mar. That point where I was like, you're just being paranoid, and like knew exactly what to say to like irritate them. I think, and then with Abel doing the same thing where it's like saying very like specific things to get under your skin. Like Jury just sometimes defaults to doing that. Yeah, it can be difficult for them. So.
Does any sense of why Juridan's reaction is to be so pointedly aggressive towards their party members?
I mean, part of it is I think it's kind of fun when you have a little bit of friction with your party. And I think Jury, the Yorian stuff really had them like confused about who to trust and like how they felt. And maybe to them, it's almost like a test. It's like, well, like, can we fight a little bit? And, you know, you guys still want to hang out with me or whatever. So, like, how they react to stuff like that, I think is important to them.
Nice.
So, yeah.
You probably touched on this a little bit, but so the way I framed it for Jace was like the goals that your character had entering into the campaign, and then maybe if those goals have transformed or changed with the interaction with what's going on.
Jury has had a very cool like internal change that's kind of, I think you I think realize it the most because you know kind of like the inner workings of everything. Yeah. But I have this idea of Jury where they had something they really wanted to accomplish and they joined Vox Populi, and the thing was Vox Populi is like they do want to do it for a very noble reason, but they have selfish means that they want to accomplish with that as well. Things they think are selfish. And so I think they've been in the movement for a while, and they just kind of feel like this sense of like, I can't do selfish things because my heart should be wholly on this movement. Yeah. And part of like the Yorian breakup is this like, I mean, they said that like it was his, you know, all of his ideals and stuff like that. But now it's kind of come out that they had a separate identity and like, and they seem to have complicated feelings about being in Vox Populi as well. Nice. So I think Jury, they feel like their heart's not fully in it for reasons we're like getting into now.
Right, yeah. Which will probably come out in the next
it will.
little bit, yeah.
It really will. And so they have something else they want to do. And so I feel like so they're kind of like pivoting in this direction where I hate to use the word selfish, but it is kind of this idea where it's like I have to accomplish this one thing for me, like to really feel fulfilled. It's like Juridan asked them in the last session, 2 sessions ago, last session, where they were, what are sessions now?
Yeah, it's all blended together.
He was like, what would you die for, Juridan?
Oh, yeah.
And that question like rocked my character. I don't think people really like realized what that like, because that was the night they stayed in the tavern by themselves and like cried all night because no one was in the room with them. It was the first time they had been alone in a really long time, and the first time they had like all these complicated emotional feelings and like being kind of far from the rift. So they had this like crazy like emotional night, and that's part of I think why they went so off the rails that next day, where it was like, oh, I'm doing something really impulsive, because they had this pivot to I'm going to do what I want to do, and what's kind of like selfish in my eyes even. So yeah, it's been and it I think it's been seen that they care really tenderly for the party now, and they want to protect them a lot. So
interesting. All right.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like all this stuff has been happening. It's so wild.
Yep. All right. So Juridan is the newest member of the crew, but has experienced a lot of things since they joined. What do you think are their favorite or most significant moments so far in their story with the campaign?
Oh my God. There are so many really good things I love. I think that first night when I joined, and it was like I did my song and kind of like gave them a free meal and everything, and we had this like, it's just like a cool bard moment. I haven't played like a more traditional bard in a while. Not that Juridan's like necessarily a traditional bard, but a more kind of traditional bard. And I'm trying to think what else was really cool. There was just that bit, you know, Juridan was like originally envisioned to be this like very cool, very suave character who was like unbothered by a lot of stuff. And then this Juridan shit started happening, and Josh plays Juridan so well. Juridan gets just like, and we had the dungeon when we went into the mines, and just got my shit rocked the entire time. Like, kept rolling badly, but rolling badly is so fun, you know.
It creates some of the best story moments for sure.
Yeah, and we had this bit where like Juridan, you know, part of Juridan's thing too is like this inferiority complex to Juridan, or feeling like they're indebted to him in some way, and then he's like really useful in the dungeon, and like my character wasn't as much, and so it was this like the facade started to slip there, I think, really, and the party was kind of seeing it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like you'd been separate, like Juridan had been separated from Juridan for long enough to kind of have their own identity, but now being like forced back in, it was all that old stuff coming back.
It's bad.
Yeah.
And then there was that bit where we're talking to Bolton Coon for the first time, and Abel's like, yeah, Vox Populi, we know about them. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? What on earth are you saying? And it was just so funny, like the idea of like super spy Juridan and then the party who like has no subtlety for that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I need to like tell you guys what not to say.
Yeah. Like Abel, Kaimana, and Soros need a written list of like, do not reveal this information.
Yes. It was so funny that happened. I loved that.
Yeah.
And then there was the time I kind of stopped trusting Juridan, and we went to the park and had that conversation. And then I literally had a heart attack as Bolton Coon showed up. And then I literally had a heart attack as Juridan showed up and spilled his whole like evil villain monologue. And I had to be like, this is my ex-boyfriend. Isn't that cool? Great. Love this for me.
Yeah. And he doesn't see himself. It's like, it's so weird because like there's clearly villains in the game.
Sure.
And then there's like people like Juridan that are maybe villains, but also very much.
They're like, I think the cool thing about Yorin is he's doing a good thing, but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
In some people's opinion, you know, I feel like there's varying degrees of, and you know, it's kind of come out. He's not been telling us the whole truth about everything, which I suspected. So, Juri has this like weird amount of like trust issues with him as well currently. But then it's like I was keeping this big secret from him too. I can't even call him on that shit.
Right.
I too was doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe to a worse extent.
Juri definitely lost some leverage, at least in that relationship, for sure. All right. So the next little bit is I'm gonna give you a ticket taker, and what are Juri's thoughts or feelings about the ticket that
I feel like I know who you're gonna give me.
Oh no, we're gonna go through all of them.
Go through all of them.
Yeah. So starting alphabetically, we'll start with Abel.
Oh, great. Yeah, we're starting with Abel. So super funny. Juri has like a really funny relationship with Abel, as people have picked up if you're watching. In that he is like always a bitch to Abel. Just like so rude for no reason. But it's that like subtle kind of petty rude where you don't, and there's a lot of components to that feeling towards him, which we haven't really gotten into yet. But obviously, like, Juri has an axe to grind with nobles, which is kind of hypocritical. But but there's more to it, I promise.
Which is also interesting because Abel doesn't see himself as a noble.
But that's almost like, it almost makes Juri madder because Abel is doing something they wish they could have done at the same age.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, so it's almost his naivety really like gets at Juri as well, because Juri is very like, and like I said, he blew his cover really early on, and like, it is that like that naivete that I think he's like just drives Juri like a little bit insane. Like, you're just too trusting and like too open-minded about stuff, even though magically we're like the only ones that are on the same level. Yeah. Which is fun. I like Juri desperately wants to talk to Abel about like magic shit, but they're just like, I don't like him. And then he'll say something nice, and Juri's like, don't make me like you. Swear to God, I don't want to like you.
Okay, Abel's so sweet. Like, he's so Abel?
But there was like my favorite moment so far for sure has been like me and Mar get into the fight, and then Abel's like, no, Juri's good. Like, you need to make up with them. That'd be so amazing. Comes downstairs and like facilitates this whole thing, and then I'm like immediately rude to him.
Yeah, and he's just like, I choose to ignore it.
Amazing. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
All right. What about Kaimana?
Also a interesting relationship. Juri still doesn't believe that he's the leader. Thinks it's some kind of like elaborate prank that's being played upon them. I don't know, in this last bit of Feldspar where he's like on the ship, believed it like a little bit more maybe, but the funny thing is it's just like Juri kind of like doesn't treat him like people, like is always like, oh, you're like a cute little animal, like, oh, that's adorable, and we'll let him kind of do leadership stuff, but like message him like, okay, well, make sure you say this, like, don't say that, like I'm actually the mouthpiece, but you can pretend like you're doing that.
Who does Juri think the leader really is?
Mar.
Makes sense.
I think Juri thinks the leader is Mar, but like Mar doesn't want to be the leader, so they're like, okay, like Mar's pretending like the Otter's the leader. Okay. But like really does feel for the family angle with Kaimana, and is like super worried about this whole like Tidewater against his family thing. So Juri is like thinking about that intensely, has not forgotten that plot thread whatsoever.
All right. Speaking of Marlowe.
Speaking of Mar, my like love-hate relationship with Mar, we're just like, me and Mar are so funny, and like me and Jace have gotten really, really close after playing game for so long, and just in general. And our characters are like, I think they probably talked about this a lot too, but like they're really crazy foils for each other, and have very similar backgrounds. I don't know how that happened. And we were talking about this
magical.
Yes. Well, we were talking about, it was so funny because you sent me the list where it was like, here's the noble backgrounds you can pick from. Like you did not like
nope.
slot.
I said, here are the patricians.
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said, here are the patricians. Pick one. And I picked the Windsor family, which is the Amalia link.
Yeah, which is also funny to me. There's like the one you randomly picked was also directly connected to Abel's story. And like, because the Windsors oversee Cindervale, and that's like where he wants to go, and like where the Artificer College is. Like there's all of these like, it was like, how could you possibly just randomly choose?
Which is so, I'm very like that. I'm very lucky, and weird things like that happen for sure. But like, yeah, it's just so funny that like that would be the link. And now we have this like crazy character relationship where like her mother figure is like related to my character, but Juri like doesn't seem to know who that is. And
because they're like a black sheep of the family. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like kind of didn't believe that she was in it until Mara was like, I dropped her off with the patrician family. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean you dropped her off there? Like, what does that mean?
Groceries? It's a DoorDash.
Yeah, I'm so confused. Like, what?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we just have like a crazy, crazy complicated, like so tender with each other, but also like the first ones to fight, I think.
Yeah.
Like the first ones to be like, what the hell are you doing? You know, to each other.
Yeah, well, and like such different world views.
Yeah, even though they're so similar.
Yeah.
But we also have this like double life thing. I mean, there's so much like that is like similar. It's really funny.
Yep. Yeah. And then Saurus.
Saurus is really neat because I haven't like been able to like sit down as a character and talk to Saurus a lot. But there was this really cool point in the last episode where you could like tell how much Juri cared about Saurus in it, especially when the rats got introduced and this like idea that he was an experiment. Like Juri is so like pledged to his cause, and there was just this really cool moment where Juridan like wanted to talk to me on the ship, and I was like, don't talk to me. I have to make sure Saurus is like taken care of. And that was part of what like ran the clock down. It was so funny because like Juri had this idea he would like talk to Juridan and like send him off, but he was so concerned with like what all the ticket takers were doing and making sure they got off the ship and were like safe, that it messed that up. And that was like way more in character than anything I had like thought of.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like happened in the moment. Like, he was like so concerned about Saurus, and he's like, we can't send the rats with them. Like, we haven't made the detection ambulance, you know. It's like, I don't, and there was this weird moment where it's like, I don't trust Juridan with this. Like, this should be something I'm doing for you. Like, I want to be the one that does this for you.
Yeah, I wonder, like, how much did Juri believe that Juridan would actually deliver the rats anywhere?
At that point, did not at all believe that.
I don't know if he would have either.
I know, that's like the interesting thing. It was this like weird moment where it was like, I don't actually think I trust him to do that for you. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
And then Beaker healed us. So sweet. Beaker's
and
everything.
We haven't met, like, you haven't met the other rats. They all have names associated with chemistry. So like, there's Beaker and Alembic and Crucible, and I can't remember the other, but they all have like, it's like when they named themselves, that it was just the materials that was around the lab. So
but yeah, Juri wants to like help them fully and wants to make sure they can like integrate it to society, because I think Saurus hasn't thought about that angle of it, and Juri like is like, you can't just chuck these people out.
Yeah.
But I have some plans for how we're gonna go.
Well,
about
and
that,
Saurus isn't like fully integrated into society, so he doesn't really know what that looks like either. Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing. I feel like Saurus, Abel, and Kaimana are all very like naive characters. Yeah. Like, that's all like a big part in different ways, but it is like a central core of their character. And Juri's like the dead opposite, like doesn't trust anything. Like, and Mar kind of flip-flops between the two.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really neat him coming in as this almost like protector, big brother kind of figure to the rest of the group. Like, all right, let's make sure we're doing this, and let's make sure we're disguising self.
Yeah.
And when Abel like came down in the like his disguise thing, I was like, I'm so proud. Like, legitimately, look what you did. You did it.
Yeah.
So good.
How does Jury feel about Soris's penchant for just going off the rails? Like, I've messaged Jace, and I said, she was like, oh, I have all these plans or all these ideas about what the next session will go. And I just sent a message and I said, all plans fall apart upon arrival of Soris's initiative.
It's so true. It's so funny. Like, but me and Rob have played game together for, at this point, almost like 6 or 7 years now. We've been playing games together for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like really, really used to Rob's play style. And I like how he plays game. And he's always like my favorite part about Rob as a player is he'll have these like crazy ideas. But you'll be like, I don't really want to do that. Or can we do it like this? And he's like, absolutely. He's so adaptive to it, which I think is like his character.
Yeah. Which I thought was so interesting because, like, it almost seemed like we didn't have a chance to debrief it on the last session, but it almost seemed like Soris had been lying to all of you the whole time about what his intentions were with the Quicksilver and Yorian and everything else. Soris
went really, really neutral evil for a second, and don't think that like Jury did not see that or like forgot that. That's like 100% going to be a big conversation with him about like, and you know that kind of ties into this like keeping the tendrils thing on himself, and like he's dabbling in this like darkness, and Jury is like super concerned about it. I haven't had a chance to like corner him and like talk to him about it, but it's definitely been something like heavy on me as like a player, like thinking about it.
And I'm wondering, like, I don't know how much of that is just Soris's naivety of the world and the way it works, or how much of it is something else.
Yeah, well, I think it's cool because it's almost like it's that classic trope where it's like your quest for vengeance, you know, like starting to like corrupt you as well. And to an extent, I think, you know, we haven't gotten into it, but like Jury has some feelings about that. So I think it's really gonna be neat.
I won't put this in the actual video, but and this is just for you.
And I want to have like a really intense conversation with him where Jury's like, hey, do you actually want to get revenge on this guy? Because he kind of like made you into a person. Like, you would just be a rat. Like, you know, it's going to be this weird, Jury really wants to know like his feelings about that, because he doesn't want Soris to like make some kind of mistake on this quest where it's like, hey, like you would be a rat right now.
And this will literally never come out unless unless you guys found a way to like sit down and have a conversation with the person who created Soris.
Oh gosh.
but like all 6 of the Rats of Rylus have a different magical essence that was planted inside of them.
Oh, and, so cool.
Yeah, and Soris's was the first, and his was the shadow magic.
Oh,
yeah. And you saw Beaker. Beaker has like holy
healing, right?
Healing spells. Yeah. So each of them has like this magical essence. Beaker is the only one of the 6 that's really found a way to kind of, because like somebody would be injured and out of necessity he manifested it, but the other ones just haven't been able to manifest it. Like that's like if I ever wrote a campaign book down the road, it'd be like, this group of people have the ability to become these powerful entities, but they haven't been pushed in that direction yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
All right. So then the last of the main questions, and then we'll do our quick round. We've talked a lot about Yorian, and I know that there's so much to do there, and Yorian
he's like the Bruno of this campaign. Like
we don't talk about Yorian.
after Feldspar, it's gonna be like Bruno.
Yeah, and like I was telling, like I don't like, unless an NPC dies, I don't like to pretend that they no longer exist. So even if Yorian is like removed, like I know what Yorian's doing in the background, whether it's sitting in jail or whatever. But so I'm sure he'll still continue to be a thorn or whatever. Yes. But are there any other NPCs that Juridan has had like a special relationship with, or have really stood out to Juridan over the course of the campaign so far?
me and Bolton Coon, I want to fight that man to the death.
I love Bolton so much.
He's so good. Well, I just love, like, there was that really scary moment, like I said, where I had been talking about Yorian being a double agent, and then, you know, you rolled, and I didn't know how much he had heard, which was really cool. And, you know, there was also that moment where it was like, I rolled deception against him, you know, to be like, hey, this was all my idea. And it was kind of like, we didn't know how much it worked either. Yeah. So I've had this fun like tango with him all through Feldspar, where it's like skirting around his stuff.
Did Jury think that they were pulling one over on him the whole time?
No, I think Jury wanted to be the more suspicious one, almost to like draw the suspicion off of Yorian too. But he knew that he had been suspicious of him super early on, and the problem was if there was suddenly that link to Yorian, like what happened, it would be really bad. It would be immediately apparent.
Yeah.
So he didn't really care about being revealed to Bolton necessarily, because he's like, he really has like no proof I've done anything, right? You know, and I'm like here with the Avengers Guild, and like, you know, I think he kind of had this mentality of like, you know, like he's not really gonna do anything to me. And then obviously things went very interesting from there.
Jury revealed themselves.
But I feel like
by
Bolton
choice.
Also like, he like also didn't take me 100% seriously either. Which,
he never trusted you. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Which I think came to bite him in the ass when I dimension George Yorian out, even though that didn't, you know, it didn't come to fruition the way I had hoped.
It was still epic.
It was epic. It was a great moment. But that was fun. And I think it was really cool that like, I love this like bit I did where like, Juridan did this very cool thing, something that like a bard does, you know, and it's supposed to be like a spy movie where it's like, yeah, I saved you and like I'm awesome. But they're like in the alleyway, like crying and shaking, like, I can't believe I did this. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And like,
I love that.
And that was their like moment where they finally picked like a selfish means, and they were like, this is the stupidest thing ever. And then Yorian's like, run away with me. And I was like, don't talk to me. Like, ew, no, that's not why I did this. Please don't make it like that.
I can't wait till our like talk back where when we get to this arc and our like review of the show and just like talk about the show, because I just want to know, like, would Jury have gone with Yorian? Would Jury?
So it's really funny because I think we're gonna get into this in the next session.
Yeah.
But I think people, not you, I think maybe you get it, but I think people have like misconstrued something about the Yorian Juridan relationship.
Yeah.
Like we'll have to get into it later, and I may talk to you about it specifically after this, but there is a different dynamic there, and there's like different reasoning there than what the party thinks the reasoning is.
The party just thinks this is like a simple like,
oh, you
he's my
like
ex-boyfriend. And no, I've always, I mean, whether there was ever anything romantic or entangled between the two of them, I've always viewed it as more of like, Yorian was your intro into the realm of Vox Populi, and he was this like bold and dramatic and like passionate person that Jury kind of modeled themselves after a little bit when they were trying to figure out who they were. And then this whole thing has been like, well, those elements are still there, but then how much of that?
Like like a don't meet your heroes, you know, don't date your heroes kind of thing, where it's like, oh, like all that stuff I liked was actually like not cool.
Yeah. It just helps that both Yorian and Jury are super flirtatious people. But like the way that Jury uses that as a means to take people off their guard. As like
a power play instead.
Yeah, and it's exactly how Yorian uses it too.
Yeah, and I think it's neat because maybe if the party like hadn't befriended Juridan in the way they did, maybe it would have been a different situation. But they all, you know, took time to like get to know my character and like establish that relationship. And I think it was I think it was apparent on the airship that like Juri's priorities had shifted.
Yeah.
Which I think was really cool. Like
Yeah.
it was a fight, but you could tell exactly how Juridan felt about certain things with their actions.
Yeah, I love that fight was interesting because there's like clear elements of combat, but then there's also very much like each individual person on the board had different motivations and different intentions. And that was not just like the enemies or the allies, but each individual member of the ticket takers too.
Yes. And there was this funny bit where like Juridan, you know, like one of like the Ansel was paralyzed and so was Mar.
Yeah.
And so Juri knew that Mar wouldn't have to pretend not to help. So I went over and like tipped her off of it. But the thing is, like, Juridan like can't kill people who they see are like innocent in the situation.
Right.
Like, they like that's completely against their code. So it would have been more advantageous to either like bet her life against Bolton, you know, essentially try to like be like I'll finish her off right here and give me Juridan, or just like let her bleed out. But the thing was like Juri doesn't have that in them as a person.
Right. Yeah.
And it was neat because I think if they had done that, like Mar wouldn't be warm to Juri either.
Oh no.
You know.
Yeah.
I had to take the time to like heal her and then try to like do something else.
If Juri had chosen to kill Ansel, I think that would have been like the straw that broke the back.
Totally different. Yeah. But then there was that cool moment where I got to stand between Juridan and Bolton. Oh, that was like so cool. Just like standing there, like has no chance in hell at doing anything.
No.
And I was just like, they're taking the stand.
Yeah.
They have to do it. They have to try.
You probably have a picture of how much Bolton actually overheard of that original conversation, but you did see that he was an Echo Knight.
Ooh,
so
yes.
The role was like, I was trying to figure out how, like, because he had his Echo moving ahead of him. The Echo can't hear or anything. So my role was how far into this conversation does he teleport to his Echo's position? So it doesn't answer the question of how much he overheard, but that's like the mechanics that were going on in the background.
Yeah. And then just me in so much pain during the conversation where Mar and Abel are like, yeah, I think Juridan's kind of sketchy. And I'm like, I can't defend him. That's like, that's the ultimate like nail in the coffin if I say anything. And then I rolled like really bad deception. Even though I wasn't in zone of truth, I just like, I think my character is just so eaten up by the whole, I have great deception.
Yeah.
And I'm just, every time I'm in the room with Bolton, I roll horribly.
Yeah. Which,
in character, I guess.
And he has really high insight, so you have to kind of beat him, but he hasn't had to beat you that much.
I really, like, if I rolled, like, even average, I would have a chance against him, but it just has not worked out.
Yeah.
Which is great. Great.
All right, we're going to do lightning round questions.
Yes.
So these are just kind of like one or whatever, however many. You can go as detailed as you want, but they're typically quick. But in Juri's character, in character thinking really quickly, what is Juridan's favorite food?
Oh, I always saw them as like a pescatarian. So they like fish stuff a lot, but they'll eat anything. Yeah. So yeah, maybe probably like fried fish or something like that.
Juri and Kaimana would just get along very well.
Yeah, I feel like Juri likes street food as someone who like didn't eat a lot of street food growing up. They kind of like have a love for it now.
Nice. Good. Favorite color?
Purple. Juri loves purple.
All right.
Purple.
Favorite drink?
This just makes me think of the bar scene. I'll never get over that bar scene we did together where Juridan's like, your usual. I was like, fuck you. But I feel like they have like the equivalent of like a Moscow Mule or something like that. Mm-hmm.
Like a little classy, but also high alcohol content.
Yes.
Yes.
But they typically don't drink. They like usually like toss their drinks out.
Yeah.
They've just been drinking a lot in Feldspar because they've been stressed out.
Super stressed. In the free time when they're not adventuring, what do they like to do in their free time?
They are trying to figure that out. Trying to figure out what hobbies they like and what they like to do as a person. But They don't play just one instrument, so I think they like to try to play their other instrument every now and then, although no one's seen them do that yet.
Yeah. It's interesting with bards because like music is such a talent and an art and a whatever, but then you use it as a element of your, like anybody who works in something that other people do as a hobby, it's like how much of that takes over.
Yeah, and I think Juri kind of likes the writing part of it, so probably spends like a decent chunk of time like writing stuff for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If Juridan went to school, which Juridan did, but didn't go to like traditional school, what would be their best subject in school?
Oh God, I can't say music class is too lame. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like they like history stuff a lot. I think they have like a decent history score, so if I remember it correctly.
Mars answer too.
oh my God, we're literally the same. It's so funny.
And this is, of course, like some of these elements are whatever, but is Juridan a person who's open to the ideas of romance in their lives?
This is hysterical. This is so funny because I feel like I've been like hinting at things with Juri as they've gone along, but Juri is demisexual, which they only like people they have like a close relationship to. They only feel sexual attraction to those people, which is like totally opposite of like a stereotypical bard.
Yeah.
And at the current point in their life, I'd probably say no, not at all. So they had this thing happen with Yorian, and that was like really rough. So and him and Yorian had that conversation where it's like, does marriage even ever work out?
Yeah.
And we both were like, I don't think so. Yeah. So it seems like they have some kind of bad ideal about this.
Yeah, that was it. What is like when he ran into you at Mysterial Springs, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think that was the like really heavy conversation. Yeah. But yeah, that was like such a funny moment that like hinted at a lot.
Back in simpler times before all the feldspar shit went.
Oh my God. So funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are, anything else you want to share about us, about your messy boy?
You're so messy. I've had such a fun time being in the group and being the bard for it. It's neat because this reveal just happened, and we've talked a lot about like when that would happen and like what we thought about that, because you brought it up as a possibility, like, maybe we'll have to do this.
Yeah, it would be a way to get away from if Bolton was doing anything.
And it was funny, like, the original plan was like try to disguise self and like get away from the ship and like hide out for a little bit and meet up with the group later. But I couldn't leave the group behind. I could have just gone invisible, separated from the whole thing, but like they just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so I think it was funny because I was telling like Jace and like Atwood, I was like, okay, I have a second plan and it will work for sure. But Juri like does not want to do that plan at all. And in my brain, I was like, we're not going to have to do that. Yeah. This is all going to be fine. Yorian's going to go away on the airship. I'll never have to think about him for a while, at least a week. Won't have to think about this man.
No, it's the king's birthday. Shit.
Yeah, I'm like, no, that's not how that happened. And so I had to reveal myself, which was like such a fun moment.
Yeah.
And there was like, I didn't know as a player, and Juridan didn't know, like, genuinely if Bolton would like try to kill me once I crossed that line.
Right.
He didn't seem to try to kill Yorian, so I had the idea like, I don't think he's going to try to kill me, but it still was like a fear, like what if he did like hit me really hard?
Yeah, like it was like I tried to set it up where it's like Ansel very clearly was somebody who's willing to use lethal force, but then their first choice was to put him in shackles. So I was like, I wanted to create this question in your head of like, how far are they willing to go?
Yeah, so it was really interesting as a player and as a character, like trying to decide how far we were going to go on stuff, and then Mar pulls off this amazing deception. We fall to the ground and then have this moment with Bolton standing over me, which was like so fun. And me as a bit of a shit stirrer I was like, we had this like really cool fight. I was like, I just want to leave us on this moment. It felt so right.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been with the party. I mean, I've been playing in the game for what, like over a year now?
Yeah.
Maybe. And I was like, this is the right time.
Yeah.
You know what? It's going to be fun.
It was the last two sessions were definitely Juri sessions.
And Jury is so excited for it not to be about them.
Yeah.
They're like, please. Even though Anavir would definitely like have a lot of their
Yeah, but it's interesting because like Anavir will be a nice thing because Abel's family's there, and also like his relationship with the princess, like, or at least his dad's there. Also the prince of Nuevia, who's a dick, is there too.
Exciting.
And then you guys have all of this, like, who's the a priori person within the council, like all that happening. Like clearly there's gonna be some investigations happening about what occurred in Feldspar. Like there's gonna be, we'll have to definitely see what the Windsors have in store for Jury, but yeah.
It'll be interesting. I need to make a meme too where it's like Josh asks Ace to join D&D party, chaos ensues. It's like the Stitch meme where it's like, send me a player, the best player you could find. It's just like Stitch. Like,
Chaos Goblin.
After
yes,
this.
I love it.